Yeah, guys, I want to remind everybody that summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet on all of it on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 to use on everything from who's going to be the Finals MVP to who's going to hit a big one out of the park. All you guys have to do is visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Thank you, Ant. The Cavs are looking for a new head coach, but also the new league year has, I guess, technically begun, Jason, because as soon as the finals wrap up, teams can talk to their own upcoming free agents and extension-eligible candidates about a new deal. We've seen Pascal Siakam already sign his max extension with Indiana. We're going to not include...
I believe he's the only one.
Only one so far, yes. We're not going to include Donovan Mitchell in this conversation. We're going to look at just the pending free agents for the Cavs for the sake of this discussion, and there are 5 of them. And we're going to go through and talk about who we want to resign and who we think we should, and by we, I mean the Cavs, should be willing to let walk this summer. The 5 pending free agents they have, not including Donovan Mitchell, who's extension eligible, once again, he's not part of this, are Isaac Okoro, Tristan Thompson, Marcus Morris, Damian Jones, and Emoni Bates. We'll start with Isaac Okoro, Tyvis. Do you re-sign him or do you let him walk? He is a restricted free agent, that is worth pointing out.
When you say re-sign, what number are we looking at?
That's the second.
That's
the second part of the discussion.
That's the sticky wicket.
Because I don't have a problem with Isaac Okoro because of the defense that he brings, and it's not a game by game. He might give you a good offensive performance once every 15 games.
That's a little harsh.
Hey, okay, 1 out of 10.
In the playoffs, it's fair.
1 out of 10. But it's something to say, especially if you hire in James Borrego and the defense is going to shift a little bit when it's going to be more offensive focused. You still need a guy that's at least a defensive specialist to come in there and still be able to set the tone. You know, he could be a defensive captain. He come in the game and make sure everybody's locked in defensively. Although they're all worried about offense, you still got a guy that's defensive heavy. So I would re-sign him, but I don't know what numbers we talking. So.
Well, that's what all comes down to is
obviously
the numbers. And I meant to pull this up for the show. When it was Colin Sexton, I did research on how many guys who are drafted by one club and don't reach an extension coming off their rookie deals, how often do they stay with that same team? It's very rare.
Yeah.
And there are some, like Jimmy Butler with the Bulls was one. He stayed, eventually left, but he stayed. I think there was a guy in Washington, maybe Otto Porter Jr., I feel like maybe fell into that category. But it's a low number of guys. Usually, if you don't extend, like last year would have been the time. Obviously, Colin didn't sign.
It's like how
his
Evan's going to sign this
like
summer.
Evan's going to, thank you, yes. Like Evan's going to sign this summer. That's the time to get it done. And if you don't come to terms then and you reach restricted free agency like now, the odds of them staying are slim. And the odds of them staying and seeing that contract through are even slimmer. And we saw that with Colin where he wound up going to Utah in the Donovan Mitchell trade. That was his restricted free agency summer, and they wound up bundling him and moving him to Utah. So the odds in history would tell you that Okoro's probably not going to be here. But I do think that he does bring value, and I know his shot is inconsistent, but he's gotten better every year. And I was totally down on Okoro a couple years ago. And I kind of came around on him a little bit this year, and I know he had a poor postseason, and it was frustrating to see because I really felt like he was putting himself in position to make a lot of money. He's not going to get the contract that I thought at one time he might be playing for. And Tyvis, you're right. It comes down to the money. Ideally, I would like to bring him back. I think he fits a role on this team, but I'm not going to bring him back at $65, $70 million if that's what it's going to take. And he's earned the right. And I'm definitely going to shop if I'm Isaac Okoro, and you've made it this far.
Absolutely.
You had your opportunity to sign me last year, and you didn't do it. So now I'm going to go see what kind of money is out there.
When Jason and I first started the Ultimate Cavs show, one of our first topics was, has Isaac Okoro played his way into a Dylan Brooks contract, which was 4 years or 5 years for $80 million? And we were looking around, and he's shooting 37, 38% from three. He's playing defense at a level that's maybe not in the top tier in the NBA, but it's in the upper echelon of point-of-attack defense. And now, if someone offered him that kind of contract, 4 or 5 years, $80 million, thank you, Isaac, so much for what you've done for this organization.
agree.
but
Shake his
we
hand.
can't
I
match it.
agree.
Shake his hand and buy him a cake.
With the extensions that are coming for Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, the Cavs are going to be a luxury tax team next year.
Yeah.
And there is no way an Isaac Okoro extension can threaten you becoming a first apron luxury tax team to a second apron luxury tax team. A guy who you are not 150,000% confident could be in your playoff rotation can't be the reason you go from the penalties of being in the first apron to the second apron. So for the right deal, I totally agree with both of you guys. Isaac Okoro would be back on the Cleveland Cavaliers next year. I think in the range of 4 for 45-ish, 4 for 50, I think you could live with that, which is about $12, $13 million a year.
What about 4 for 60?
I have to think hard, long and hard.
Okay.
And it depends on
That's-
how much the contracts for Donovan and Evan come into play and what you want to do at that mid-level exception. Just because I can't have Isaac put you in risk of the second apron of the tax luxury. Or the second apron of the tax luxury.
Jason,
Because
4 for 60.
that takes you out of the running for buyout guys. It takes you out of the running for trading certain picks. Jason, 4 for 60, is that?
That's
I think that's too much for
pretty.
me.
You're really in the deep end.
Yeah.
At that point. You're
4
really,
for 55.
Anything over 50, I'm real hesitant.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm real hesitant.
Yeah.
But the one thing with Okoro, next season, regardless of who the coach is, he's been playing a wing position for the Cavs. I think he's best suited as a 2-guard. And if you can get a real wing,
Yeah.
and once again, easier said than done to
How
acquire.
tall is he anyway?
6'4", 6'5". He's not that big.
Why don't we have
But
tall people
my point
on the
is, if
Cavs?
he's your second guard next to Donovan or Darius in the backcourt who can guard their best playmaking ball handler, that fits his role and what he's capable of way more than what he's being asked to do guarding Palos and Tatums, which he's capable of doing, but he's giving up size in each of those advantage and mismatches.
He was here before Donovan, right?
Yes.
So his first year, he played the 2 alongside Darius.
Okoro.
And Colin.
You're talking
And
Okoro?
Colin.
Yeah.
He was always the 3.
Yeah.
Because
He was always the 3?
Because Colin was here.
Yeah.
It was Darius and Colin.
But he's in a perfect world, if he's your 2,
Yeah, he's a 2 to me.
yeah, he's an undersized wing or a very good sized 2 who can guard the other team's
But
best
the
ball.
Cavs like 2 guys who can create in the backcourt. They don't want. I don't think they would ever want Okoro to be the long-term answer at the 2 because they want 2 guys.
No,
who
I'm
can
not saying
handle
a
the ball.
long-term answer, but I'm saying if he's coming off the bench
I
as
see.
that secondary guard,
Yeah.
then it makes a little more sense.
I found that stat finally that I was trying to look up. So this is a little bit old because, again, this goes back to when I was doing it for Colin Sexton coming off a restricted free agency. From 2013 to 2017 in those drafts, 31 players drafted in the top 10 failed to reach extensions when they were eligible. Out of those 31, only 6 stayed with their teams on new deals. So the evidence, and actually Tristan is another example of a guy who did stay. Now that's going back even farther. That's prior to 2013, but Tristan Thompson went through restricted free agency after the championship and signed that monster deal with the Cavs as a restricted free agent. And there was a lot of history that went into that, and there wasn't a lot of teams out there that could. It doesn't matter now. But from those years, from 31 guys who failed to come to agreement, only 6 stayed with their teams.
Yeah.
So the history is overwhelming that Isaac has probably played his last game with the Cavs, but it's not impossible.
And it depends. Like, he's a restricted free agent, so other teams can come in and offer him a contract sheet. The Cavs have the right to match. It just comes down to the numbers. But I think we're all in agreement. For the right number, you keep Isaac. If it's too hefty a price to pay,
He could go.
you obviously have to let him walk. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Tristan Thompson, who provided some veteran presence and leadership for this Cavaliers team. Tyvis, will he be back in wine and gold next season?
Are you serious?
Yes. He's one of their 5.
Wait a minute. Let me
upcoming
hold
free
on.
agents.
Which version of Tristan are we talking? On the juice or off the juice? Because that matters.
I'm going to assume it's off the juice.
Can he fake the test next year?
Off the juice, no, he will not be back. However, if he somehow finessed the league and he back on that stuff again, that dude was a player. No, I don't think he'll be back. I think that whoever the new coach is, they'll probably have some veterans, big men that they are familiar with that's probably towards the end that they want to bring in to help establish the foundation and speak the language that the coach is speaking to be that veteran presence. And I don't think Tristan Thompson will be that for whoever the new coach is. So I don't think he'll be back.
You're right. in that guys have their own. We saw it with Jim Schwartz on the defensive side, and guys he wanted to bring in who were familiar with
Right.
the
They have
system.
their guys.
Yeah, and you see that over and over. And I'm sure that, maybe if it's Borrego or Atkinson, whoever, there's one or two of those guys. You're going to laugh at me. I'd bring Tristan Thompson back.
Of course.
I think he is like, I think what he means, he's like sort of the Austin Hedges, not in the fabric of the locker room in terms of the funny comic.
Yeah, very different. That's not him.
No, that's not. But Tristan very much can be a locker
Yeah.
room guy. He knows this organization better than anyone. He's been here forever. He can be that Udonis Haslem in Miami, of that guy who means more to you off the court than he is on the court. And I thought they've lost something when he left the first time. He brings a level of toughness and nasty that, frankly, Evan Mobley doesn't have, that hasn't shown right now. But Tristan, I was talking to one of the coaches for the Cavs prior to the playoffs and said, you might think I'm nuts. I think Tristan can hold a role in the postseason. And I was told basically, yeah, he hopefully can mess some things up in a good way on the court, sort of muck some things up, be physical, and maybe light a fire under Evans. So I think he does hold a role. You're not paying him top money.
He's getting a minimum contract.
Yeah,
essentially.
If he playing on a minimum, sure.
I mean, he's going to get max $5 million.
He won't get that. It would be a minimum deal. But it keeps. I don't know that there's a long list of teams that are ready to bring Tristan in. He was doing TV for a while before the Lakers went and signed him. I think for what he could bring to the locker room, I would bring him back.
I feel like, go ahead, because you ain't answered, but go ahead.
Thompson has a role. There's another guy that we're going to get to on the list that I would be more.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, so everything
the
you meant-
next person you say,
Marcus Morris.
I would take him
see,
over him, and
now-
it feels everything you just said, except he ain't been in this organization all this time.
So I came down into this exercise. We could ignore Damian Jones. None of us are bringing him back, right? If he gets a contract,
No.
he's gone.
No.
Emoni Bates will be a Cav next year unless
Yeah,
someone offers him an offer sheet.
yeah.
I don't think anyone's
No
offering
one's offering
Emoni
him.
Bates. So
No one's
let's
offering
spend the last 5 minutes of this on Thompson versus Marcus Morris. Thompson is more of a traditional center. Morris is a stretch 4 or 5. Different roles. If they let go of Jones, they do need a real backup 5 because whether they keep the core 4 together with Mobley and Allen or they trade one of them, you can't just have one real big. So Thompson gets a little edge there. But I think from a toughness, from a mess it up standpoint, Jason, and from a what he can contribute on the court, I think Morris has the edge in the on-court stuff while Thompson has the edge in the intangibles. But from an on-court perspective, the gap between Morris and Thompson is bigger than the intangible gap is from Thompson to Morris. So I would actually opt, if it was between one of those two,
I'm taking
to
Marcus
bring back
Morris.
Marcus Morris than I would for Tristan Thompson.
I agree.
Marcus was a JB guy. JB's the one who wanted to bring. I'm not saying no one else did.
But he took shots at him after the season, which was weird.
Well, that's where I think if you bring Marcus back, I think there's some conversations that have to be had. Marcus went on a podcast and said he felt it in the locker room that there was something off and it was bad with JB. But it was the other thing that Marcus said on that same podcast about with Jared Allen, and he thought he should have come back and played basically against Boston. He said he understood him not coming back against Orlando because Orlando played such a physical style, but he was a little surprised and thought he would be back for the Boston series, which again goes right back to the reporting that we did on Jared in the end of the season. So if you're going to bring Jared back, I think you at least have to have a conversation between those two if Marcus is going to come back, because
You know what the
and I think Marcus said that because he probably didn't think he was coming back.
No, I don't think he's coming back. But even if he did, you know what the conversation is. I said what I said, and it was the truth.
Yeah, not everybody in the locker room has to like each other.
No, and trust me,
I
I've been
guarantee you
on
not
teams
everyone
that
likes
it ain't.
them. Yeah.
It's a lot of smoke there, but
That's
at
right.
the end of the day, we still got the same common goal.
Pulling on the same side of the rope.
Yeah.
All right, so take that aspect out of it, Jason.
Yeah.
If it was, in your opinion, between Morris and Thompson, which way would you lean? If you could only bring one.
If you can only bring one, it'd be Marcus because of he can shoot threes. We've seen that.
Yeah.
He can do more things on the floor.
He would fit, if James Borrego is the coach, he would fit that style.
Yeah, I would bring Marcus back over Tristan for on-court production. Sure, I just kind of look at this as, when you just look at this as a whole and some of the things that Marcus said, he was sort of talking like a guy to me that knew that he wasn't coming back for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I kind of assumed that he was leaving.
I don't know if he wants to come back. That's the thing.
It's a good team that has a chance to win.
Because I think It's interesting because for him, I think he felt his role. He didn't get the role that he thought that he was promised he was going to get. Like, he thought he'd be contributing more.
But it's a new coaching
So
staff.
it's a new coach, and he don't know, which that's kind of what you want, because now you can play yourself back into that to be that guy.
And he's not a starter anymore. I think he understands.
Yeah.
He may have wanted to play more than he did with Cleveland, especially in the playoffs when guys got hurt. But he was bought out of a playoff team last year. And he's bounced around the league the last few years. He's not the same player he was 5 years ago.
That's what the point I was going to make was he's older in his career. He doesn't have a whole lot of time left.
How old is he now?
He's made his money.
How old is he?
I mean, he's got to be mid-30s.
How old is Tristan?
Older.
He was in the Tristan was in the 2011 draft. Morris might have been in that draft too, actually.
Morris is 34.
Yeah. Tristan and Kyrie were in the 2011
He was.
draft.
They were all the same draft
Marcus
guys.
was in that draft too.
The 14th pick that year.
Yeah. And so you just don't know what's important to a guy at this stage of his career. He's made his money. He's got plenty of money.
But he hasn't got a ring.
He did, but not everyone's driven by that. And I don't know if I don't know him well enough to know. There are some guys that is their quest is I have to win a championship before I retire. I want to go to a spot that gives me the best chance to win. There are other guys who want to play close to home.
Usually it's, from what I remember, it's all about the money, and then when you get towards the end, if you haven't gotten the ring
You
yet,
want to win.
now you want that ring to say, I completed my career, I made my money, and I also got a championship.
But not everyone is driven by that.
Correct.
Some guys just want to play close to home, or for whatever reason, there's certain places that they feel more comfortable where they want to go.
Where is he from?
I don't know him well
He's a
enough
Philly
to know.
guy.
What's that?
From Philly?
Philly, I believe.
I don't know him well enough to know like what drives him and what's important to him at this stage of his career, so I can't answer that.
He is from Philly. So.
And his brother's playing where? What team?
And home doesn't
Marquise,
necessarily mean
Washington?
home doesn't necessarily mean where you were born.
He's with the
either.
Mavs.
Oh.
A lot of guys want to go to the South. A lot of guys like playing in Atlanta. Some guys like playing in Phoenix. So it's different things are important.
How's the Cavs on the appeal to a free agent?
Some things are different to different guys. Listen,
They got Max Strus
they got
last year.
Strus. Like that was a big deal. Like
Yeah.
it really was. Cleveland for decades has struggled with free agents to get free agents in. Yeah.
No, Ty, you're laughing. This is actually like what Jason's saying is not wrong.
I know from a
Jason's
Brown
right.
standpoint, but I didn't know from the Cavs standpoint, you know?
The Guardians struggle with it. I've had people in that organization tell me that they struggle with it.
We got to make Cleveland more popular. We got to build some skyscrapers downtown.
You know what helps? If Donovan resigns.
Well, if you
I mean, yeah, but you know,
to be able to retain him when he didn't ask to come here, you traded for him and called for him and brought him here for him to say of his own accord, I want to stay. The Strus contract was a big deal. Like there was other interest in him, and he was one of the top free agents on the market last year. Now he's not an elite superstar.
they could have
but
kept
he's a
him.
good
We
player.
got Sam Merrill. We good.
But Strus is a good player, and he chose to come to Cleveland. Those are significant moments that didn't happen for decades before. So, and that's a credit to this franchise for being able to lure those guys in. Because for years, free agents were not coming here.
I think Cleveland is just misunderstood. I think once you come, you appreciate it. You know, it's like, man, it ain't that bad, man. It's actually all right.
I can attest as someone who had never been to Cleveland before I got here, it is so much better than it gets credit for. And everyone who's visited me since I've been here has left with that exact same sentiment. I love Cleveland now, and I'm guessing every free agent that comes here, unless they're dying to get back to a coastal city or to more warmth.
I mean,
Feels the
it's
same
not
way.
Cali or nothing like that.
No, but you know who else said that? Was Dave McMenamin when he came here from L.A. Like, Dave moved from L.A. to come cover LeBron in 2014. He was in his mid-30s at the time, probably, single. And we had tons of conversations where he was like, oh, God, Cleveland, I don't know about this. And loved it. Absolutely loved his time here. And obviously he's back in L.A. now. But it's just a special place to him.
I feel like for an athlete, like it's a nice place because the fan base is They're looking for somebody
They
to
will
clean.
love you
yeah,
forever.
they looking for some. They want you to go out there and just
Go
play
at-
hard and give it your all. Like they will love you forever.
Go ask Channing Frye and Richard Jefferson how they feel about Cleveland.
Channing Frye posted 17 different tweets yesterday about the championship parade. Yesterday was the anniversary of the parade.
Yep.
He posted 17 different videos from the parades. And it
No,
was-
yesterday was champion of the game of Game 7, wasn't it? It was Game 7.
No, Game 7 was 6-17.
Oh,
I
you're
thought it
right.
was
Yesterday
Father's
was
Day.
the
Yeah, well, it
Yeah.
was Father's Day that year.
Yeah, yesterday was the championship. Channing Frye was posting
I should
tweets.
know that. I
Good
was
Lord,
there.
I know you were there.
That's a shame.
And let's move on to our last Cavs topic after a quick word from Gabe.